So, starting with the film The Machinist. It is about factory worker Trevor Resnick, who suffers from insomnia and slowly starts to doubt his own sanity. With not sleeping for a year, his condition has taken its toll on his weight and his mental health. When Trevor causes an on-the-job accident that horribly injures a co-worker, he begins to become even more troubled. Trevor descends further into paranoia, blaming his problems on a man named Ivan, which no one else claims to be able to see. With finding unfamiliar pieces of paper in his apartment, Trevor believes that someone is out to get him. As Trevor goes on a search for evidence, he may come to a true understanding of what has caused his insomnia. This film has helped me develop ideas such as the whole theme of mental illness. This is a huge psychological part of the film. For example, the question that constantly comes up throughout the film is if Trevor has mental illness such as schizophrenia. The film itself is consistently making the audience think, which is an element I would like to include in my film. Okay, moving on to the film Enemy. It is about a college professor who discovers a lookalike actor and becomes obsessed looking for him and finding out about his life. He is stuck in a routine which includes a relationship with his girlfriend Mary. While watching a rental movie, he spots an actor that looks like him. He becomes obsessed with finding out about who his double is. He learns that the actor's name is Anthony Clare. Anthony is a Toronto-based actor and is married to a woman named Helen, who is currently pregnant. Adam then becomes obsessed with meeting Anthony, who he learns upon first sighting that they look exactly the same, from the facial hair to a scar each has. Their lives become intertwined as Anthony himself ends up becoming obsessed with Adam, but in a slightly different way. The film focuses on how the character is obsessive. Using this idea in my own film would allow the character to become more complex and interesting. The film again is surprising the audience with plot twists, which is a typical convention of a thriller, which I would also like to meet. Okay, moving on to the film The Conversation. It is about a paranoid secret surveillance expert named Harry Cow, who has a crisis of conscience when he suspects that a couple he is spying on will be murdered. He is hired by a mysterious client to follow the young couple, Mark and Anne. Tracking the pair through San Francisco's Union Square, Harry Cow and his associate Stan manage to record a conversation between them. Tormented by memories of a previous case that ended badly, Harry becomes obsessed with the resulting tape, trying to determine if the couple are in danger. This film uses the convention of murder and someone trying to figure it out. This is seen in most thriller films and would be an element I would like to consider. There is a concept of mystery throughout the film which sustains the tension and engages the audience further. Donnie Darko. It is about a troubled teenager named Donnie Darko who suffers from a mental illness. He has visions of a large bunny rabbit that manipulates him to commit a series of crimes when telling him the world will end in 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes and 12 seconds. After escaping a bizarre accident and causing supernatural events, Donnie seeks for answers. He investigates time travel in an attempt to turn back the clock and prevent the world coming to an end. This film is probably my biggest inspiration. The film is so complex which intrigues me more. The storyline has many hidden meanings that the audience just tend to have their own interpretation of it. The main theme of hallucination has influenced my ideas hugely, as the camera shots and editing would be exciting and characters are generally more interesting. The film itself is mind-blowingly confusing but clever. I personally loved the film and how we were left with unanswered questions at the end, which makes you think about it more. However, I understand that this is not a convention that not everybody likes, which is what I need to take into consideration when exploring film ideas further. Okay, moving on to the Stanford Prison Experiment. Based on a true story and set in the 70s, 24 male students out of 75 were selected to take on randomly assigned roles of prisoners and guards in a fake prison in the basement of Stanford University Psychology Building. Matters soon take a wrong turn and get out of hand. Even though this has not been released yet, I have researched the real story in depth. The experiment was conducted to look into the psychological effects of becoming a prisoner and a guard, and to investigate the conflict and authority between the two. The participants adapted to their roles beyond the expectations. As the guards abused their use of authorization, they pushed the prisoners to psychological torture, and many of the prisoners accepted it. and at the request of the guards harassed other prisoners who attempted to prevent it. Looking into this film has helped me broaden my research into different psychological experiments and also murder cases, such as the Joseph Fritzl documentary. This has inspired me to come up with ideas of basing my film on a true story, which is a convention of the thriller genre. This has helped me develop ideas from true stories and start to think about my initial ideas for my film. Okay, moving on to Shutter Island. It is set in the 1950s. It is about the escape of a patient which brings Marshal Teddy Daniels and his new partner to Ashcliffe Hospital, a psychiatric hospital located on an isolated island. He has his own reasons for wanting to get to the island and carries baggage of his own. He is still traumatised from what he saw when his army unit liberated one of the Nazi concentration camps at the end of World War II, and is still haunted by the more recent death of his wife. The woman which escaped appears to have vanished from a locked room. Teddy soon believes the hospital and everyone is against him, and you slowly see him turning mad. As the investigation deepens, Teddy realises he will have to confront his own dark fears if he hopes to make it off the island alive. Again, to shock their audience, the film uses many plot twists, a convention I will definitely be exploring further. I also like how this film is set in the 1950s, as this is an era I enjoy, from the fashion to the music. Perhaps setting my film in this era will allow it to have a whole new dimension and create different characters, music, costume and location. Another convention it uses is the detective and mystery needing to be solved storyline. This is something I may look into further for my own film. The whole film is based around a psychiatric hospital, which is a common convention in the thriller genre and may be something to look into. The idea of madness is definitely something I would consider when exploring my film storyline further. The former Marine Travis Bickle decides to work as a taxi driver in the night shift. He meets campaign worker Betsy, who he takes out, but when things turn for the worse and she rejects him after he takes her on an inappropriate date, disturbed loner Travis grows increasingly detached from reality. He becomes obsessed with the idea of saving the world, working out and buying lethal weapons. He starts to plot an idea to assassinate presidential candidate, but then directs his attentions towards rescuing 12-year-old prostitute Iris. My interpretation of the storyline is that it focuses on the character development of Travis and how he slowly turns obsessive over becoming a well-known criminal. However, in the end he becomes a hero and morally does the right thing. The film itself is a huge build-up to the end, which creates apprehension for the audience. Again, another convention which I may consider. Okay, finally the film Bronson. Although a drama, it is psychological as it is based on a true story. It follows the mind and life of Charles Bronson, England's most dangerous prisoner. He initially only got put in for 7 years and 4 with good behaviour for stealing money. However, his sentence continuously got extended from brutal behaviour, from keeping guards hostage, torturing them and in constant fights. The prison could only control him when he was in confined solitary. Charles Bronson, real name Michael Peterson, even got transferred to a psychiatric hospital. This film has inspired me in so many different ways. The main one is how Bronson himself is telling the story, introducing himself and other characters. This is an exciting and modern twist to films and an element I am thinking of including. The story is also based on a true story, a convention that is reoccurring.